This evening, I'm going to ask Commissioner Thomas to lead us in a prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, this time we can gather together and just do the county's business. We just ask your blessings on every decision that's made here tonight. We ask you that thy will be done. Just put our will aside. We ask you to just bless the people of our community and all things we do. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Pulling item 7 from the consent, 8.
8, okay.
Is that?
And I would like to suggest that we move the promotional pinning ceremony honoring the EMS and fire staff up to the beginning ahead of the public hearing.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Anything else?
I also will be adding a agenda item for request board approval for amendment of FDOT LAP agreement and amendment to the Kimberly Horn Associated contract with the IPO.
That's under general business or your item?
Under my item.
You could say it. I'll check on that.
Is that okay with moving it up? Chief?
You got one right over the lake.
Okay. FDOT lab.
8.
All right, do we have a motion on the agenda?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioners. This evening we have the honor of recognizing some of our employees that have been promoted to a rank of supervisor, and I'd like to call one of them up at a time. This ceremony is a traditional fire-type situation in EMS that our colleagues honor them, and they choose somebody that is close to them to actually what we call pin them, actually putting their rank and badge on them as we go this evening. And then we will ask them to take a short oath of office to do that. So if I could ask Brandon Alye to come up, and he is going to be pinned by his father, Brian. Brandon is a certified instructor for the Florida State Fire College. He's a certified Fire Officer 1. He's a live fire training instructor. He started with Wakulla County in July of 2007. In 2006, he was a volunteer with the Crawfordville Volunteer Fire Department. And before that, he started with the United States Navy in 2003 and became a member of the fire crew of the United States John F. Kennedy Fire Crew after taking training for that in the Great Lakes Center in Chicago. He was deployed to the Persian Gulf for a 9-month tour during that. And I'd like him to go ahead and pin him at this time. Brian said he's been waiting a long time to have a legal shot at pinning him for this. Okay, thanks. You gentlemen can just step right over there, and we'll ask Mr. Jerry Johnson to come up. And he is going to be pinned by his wife, Delana. Delana asked for this opportunity. She serves as a volunteer battalion chief with Wakulla Station Volunteer Fire Department, and she said she wanted to make sure she pinned Jerry because she wanted to make him aware that she was still outranks him. Jerry is a Florida certified fire instructor, a live fire training instructor. He started in Wakulla as a career firefighter in 2008, but his history with Wakulla Fire Rescue goes way back to 1998 when he was a volunteer with our Station 2. He moved to captain in 2003, assistant chief in 2005, and then was a chief in 2006 to 2008 when he began his career in Wakulla County. He was actually instrumental in helping design the career department when we started hiring career people in 2007. And some say they wanted to make sure that he wrote his own job description into those, but we'll let him get by with that one. He has been very instrumental with expanding the county-wide trainings through the county. Delana? she is wondering if this is going to be a line of duty injury if she misses. Thank you. And next we have Louis LaMarche. He is going to be pinned this evening by his lovely daughter, Naomi. Louis is also a Florida Fire Service instructor, live fire training instructor, and what he won't tell you, because he's too proud, that he has also served twice as the interim fire chief of Wakulla County from its inception in 2007. He started in 2007. Before that, he spent 2 years with the Lynn Haven Fire Rescue and has been very active role in forming our fire rescue division into what it is now. Naomi, you have the pleasure of pinning your dad. All of them asked for bulletproof vests before this evening's ceremony, but Joey's not here. I would like to read a code of honor for the officers and then have you take a short oath. Every officer holds a special position of trust and responsibility. You will never violate that trust or avoid responsibility for any actions regardless of the personal cost. As an officer, you are first and foremost a leader. You must lead by example in personal actions. You cannot just manage your command to effectiveness, you must lead. As an officer, you must therefore set the standard for personal bravery and leadership. All officers are responsible for the actions of all their brothers officers. The dishonorable act of one officer diminishes the team. Your actions as an officer must always be above reproach. Now, if you would raise your right hand, I, and state your name. One of them was going to say, state my name. I know where they were going. Do solemnly swear to faithfully execute the duties as captain of the County of Wakulla, to selflessly serve the citizens of Wakulla with respect, integrity and excellence, and to uphold the mission of Wakulla County Fire and EMS. The Constitution of the United States, the State of Florida, and the laws and ordinances of the County of Wakulla. So help me God. Thank you.
We have one more if
EMS Captain, if y'all could take your seats a second, and you guys stay right there. And Joey Tillman, who's going to be pinned by Commissioner Richard Harden. So got your badge. Joey is promoted to the rank of EMS Captain. He has been a first responder since 1992 and actually spent some time in the Bahamas doing volunteer fire and rescue there. In 2005 and 9, he was a paramedic firefighter with St. Lucie County. He is a watercraft specialist, has been a volunteer fire chief for Sopchoppy, and has his pilot's license as well as a scuba instructor. During the period of 1986 through 1992, he served in the United States Marine Corps and advanced to sergeant and was a supply chief. And we would like him to take the short oath of his rank as well. Joey, if you just raise your right hand. I, Joey Tillman, do solemnly swear to faithfully execute the duties of a captain for Wakulla County, to selflessly serve the citizens of Wakulla with respect, integrity, and excellence, and to uphold the missions of Wakulla County Fire and EMS, the Constitution of the United States of America, the state of Florida, and the law and ordinances of the County of Wakulla. So help me God. Thank you, John. Mr. Chairman, we'll let them snap a few pictures and then we'll be done.
I'll stay out of the way.
You could smile, Brandon. Thank you, Commissioners, for giving us this time.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to leave, now's the time to do it. No, we can't leave, unfortunately. All right, David, Heather, on to the public hearing.
Yep, this agenda item requests board approval to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the proposed emergency ordinance repealing ordinance number 12-35 relating to the sale and distribution of flavored tobacco products. On November 5th, 2012, the board adopted ordinance 12-35, amendment number 1, restricting the sale and distribution of flavored tobacco products by only those establishments restricting access to persons 21 years of age or older. Due to the concern of many business owners throughout the county, staff discussed the concerns individually with each commissioner and determined it necessary for the board to consider adopting the proposed ordinance, which will repeal ordinance 12-35 in its entirety.
All right, we got a motion on this item?
I want to make a motion that we approve to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed emergency ordinance repealing ordinance number 12-35.
All right, we got a motion and a second. I'm in support of, let's just talk amongst ourselves briefly. I voted for this originally, but I've changed my mind after hearing different views of it. I think it was well intended, but I think the unintended consequences kind of outweigh the benefit of it. That's my opinion. I
fully agree. I'm in favor of repealing this. I think it's harmful to the businesses and it's impacting adults who actually use the product.
Also, as additional information on this particular subject, to repeal the ordinance, or this ordinance requires a supermajority 4-1 vote for repeal, just for your information.
Sure, anyone has any grief repealing it, you think?
I just want to make some comments before we take a vote. My understanding from my discussions with staff and with the Sheriff's Department, at least one person representative there, that there were some problems within this current ordinance. That being the case, I want to make it clear that I am personally and strongly in favor of restricting the way these candy-flavored tobacco products are sold in our county, especially as relates to exposure to youth. And because we may be the first to implement of any county an ordinance of this nature, it is very important that we need to make sure that our ordinance that is brought forward is as tight and as accordance to the law as we can make it. And with that expectation, I'm looking forward to another ordinance coming back to this board, which this board can hopefully vote on and approve.
I talked to Tanya Howard about this. She has some other ideas about product placement restrictions possibly and other items, and I think we all agree that the premise is to protect children from smoking. I think we all agree on that. It's just how to implement it. So we'll go on to citizens if it's okay.
Sure.
Wrong, Fred? I think it's pretty obvious that we are going to repeal it, so you're
Ronald Crum, 1321 Coastal Highway. We sell tobacco. I don't smoke it, don't like it. And let me tell you something, I support keeping all kids from not only smoking flavored tobacco, but all tobacco. And you know, the state does that, and the feds do that. 66 other counties are doing that, and if Wakulla County follows suit here, then I think we would send that signal that we want to be denied all tobacco products. And I think that's the way it needs to be. You know, I think flavored tobacco is not the only one that hurts the kids. It's all tobacco products. And we need to send that signal. And we send a signal out there where we're asking people to remove flavored. We're kind of saying to them, well, that other tobacco is okay. Well, it's not okay. And we need to unite with the nation and say that it's not okay. You know, there's some talking points here that I look at, and it's very important, but we do need to address this issue. But I think each one of us has to get in this ball game and fight it. I do it in my store. I mean, if I see your kids there and somebody gives them a tobacco product, I don't care. I mean, it's wrong for all the kids to get on these cigarettes. But I think by you rescinding this, you know, I went over to the store today. There was a television group out there, and so I went over to the tobacco counter and got to looking, and you know, we're talking about candy cigarettes, and then we're talking about flavored cigarettes, and then we're talking about there's another company with a flavored, and there was 10 or 15 different flavors. So for somebody to have due process of law, y'all better have you a battery of lawyers, because this thing's very complicated. The state didn't do it, the feds didn't do it, and they didn't do it for a reason, because somebody's going to open up a big can of worms when they jump on this thing. So I think all of us can unite and get behind the drive to stop kids from smoking, and that's the way we need to go with this thing. But you know, my girls try to make a living, and to put, you know, the tobacco people in there last week, the same kids in there all the time trying to see if you will sell them cigarettes. I think that's good. I like it. But those people are trying to make a living, and you put them in a situation that they don't know what the law is. You know, you're looking down there, is it a candy, is it a flavor, is it... Hey, I went over there today, and I can tell you today, I couldn't tell you what the issue is. I mean, we're in a major problem here, but I appreciate the attitude you've got here that we're going to look deeper into this, and I sure support you.
Thank you. Riley, 2. I hacked your name up. Please forgive me.
My name is Bradley 2. Thank you for this chance to talk to you today. I am a student at River Springs Middle School, and I am an active member of the Students Working Against Tobacco. Recently, I learned that you were going to take away the ordinance for candy-flavored tobacco. My concern is this: if you remove it, then the candy-flavored tobacco will be more easily available to kids my age. From all the research we have learned, kids my age up to high school are more likely to buy it. Most adults are already hooked and have the tobacco product of their choice as a habit. However, candy-flavored tobacco was designed for younger people to get them hooked at an earlier age, and since I know this as a fact, I have a problem about you adults worrying about selling it. Many times, the candy-flavored tobacco is right in front of the counter or easily seen by kids. I understand money is involved, and police being able to see if people are doing what they're supposed to is a problem. Honestly, I don't understand why we can't reach an agreement that is placed somewhere where kids are not encouraged to start. I like the ordinance to stay in effect, but if you can't feel it, can we not at least show we care not to put it somewhere easily seen by kids? Anyhow, that's all I'm asking.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrew Walker? Very good job.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Walker, and I'm a 7th grader at Wakulla Middle School. I happen to be the SWAT president for Wakulla Middle School and a youth advocacy board member for SWAT and a Region 1 representative for SWAT. SWAT is students working against tobacco. I understand that there are legal issues associating with candy-flavored tobacco ordinance. On November 5th, 2012, the Wakulla County Commissioners adopted an ordinance restricting the selling or distribution of candy-flavored tobacco products at stores that sell to minors. From what I understand, research from Tobacco Free Florida shows that 1 in 6 kids between ages 11 and 17 have tried candy-flavored tobacco. The tobacco industry's own documents show that these sweet tobacco products are designed and marketed to attract kids, just like me and my friends. This is simply just to get kids to try to use candy-flavored tobacco products. When we walk in the stores with our parents and see these items, we are tempted because they look like candy and we do not know the dangers. If you watch TV, there is a commercial of a young girl who started out with candy-flavored tobacco and smoking at the young age of 13. By age 19, she had throat cancer. I hope that this never happens to anyone. In November, when you passed this ordinance, I was so proud to be in Wakulla County. I felt like our county commissioners were saying that my health and the health of my friends was important to them. Taking these products out of the stores and where we shop is a huge step towards keeping kids like me tobacco free. When I was told that the ordinance was going to be discussed again tonight and possibly taken away, I was very disappointed. Please don't let the kids of Wakulla County down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good job. Jim Card.
I'll just wait a minute.
Thank you, sir. CHVES looks like. H. Chuck, come on now. I know you can write better than that. Are you trying to trick me or something?
Yeah, keep you on your toes there.
Wow.
You know, I guess you're discussing because you have a problem with this ordinance, and to me it seems like a great ordinance, but I don't smoke anymore. I had my error in my past, and I started when I was young, and took a long time to get rid of it. I can't see why it's an emergency. You seem like you could come back with an ordinance to replace this one that says, you know, these aren't marketed, there's lots of restrictions on them. Something you could come ahead at the same time you're repealing the one you have. I don't know, you know, I couldn't get the agenda item online today, so I'm not sure of all the issues on this, but this seems like a good ordinance, and I'm wondering why you're replacing it and why you're putting our kids at risk when, you know, you could go ahead and have an ordinance to replace it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim McKinney.
Moving on, I'll
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Basically, I told somebody earlier that I was going to go along with the ordinance that we had, but then I discovered that the state has a rule that minors under 18 cannot buy cigarettes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Then basically that pretty much, that pretty much solves my problem with this. But one of the things that people here who are younger than I am, when I was in college and in the military, the cigarette companies would be at the chow lines passing out little packs of 4. Everybody who went into the chow hall or into the military chow hall, you got a pack of 4 cigarettes. It was Salem's, Camels, whatever. They intended to get you hooked. That was their deal. And then they come up with this candy flavored. How awful can that be if you're a corporate president? That's just trying to lure young people into cigarettes. It's awful. But I still believe that we can't. If the state has the rule of 18 and we go somewhere else, everybody's going to be confused. So I'll probably go along with this.
Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is the board amenable to another ordinance coming back to have staff look at this ordinance, to workshop it with the community, and come back with another ordinance.
I tell you what I'd like to see. I asked Jessica to write down everybody's name and contact information that called in, and before we move forward, I hate to see us do this all over again. You know, like I said, the product placement thing may be something pretty easy. That was brought up 2 or 3 times. I mean, I'm certainly willing to look at something. You know, I think we should reach out, maybe through phone calls or whatever, to the concerned, you know, the affected people, and see what we can come up with that is reasonable. So I would, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, so what, so how would that flow? How would that go along?
You want to flesh it out some more under discussion items? Maybe we can talk about it at length at the end of the meeting?
That sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the public hearing, proposed ordinance regarding historic preservation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for board to conduct the continued public hearing. You originally opened this item at your December meeting. There were some questions, and because this is so closely aligned with a state grant program, you all continued the public hearing to tonight so that we could get some clarification from the state on their requirements to ensure that you would remain eligible. The answers to the questions that were posed that night are outlined in your agenda summary. I won't go into those unless you have specific questions. What we are recommending tonight is to approve to conduct the continued public hearing and adopt the historic preservation ordinance, which is attached as attachment number 2. Attachment number 1 shows you the changes that were made as a result of your direction at your December meeting.
Make a motion to approve to continue the public hearing and adopt the historic preservation ordinance.
Second.
Okay. Me personally, the things we were most concerned about was having the district and tying people
It's already been
to the
addressed.
house just because of where they lived, but this changes that, so they had to volunteer for it. My question when we had our agenda briefing was, what benefit does anybody get out of this? And I can't see any benefit. Certainly they would get locally. Maybe they could apply for some state grants. But I'm happy with it the way it is. I don't think it steps on people's toes too much.
I see the biggest benefit of it is allowing the Historical Society, whenever they're creating a Heritage Village, to be able to have access to funding to be able to help create the Heritage Village.
I agree. But I'm saying if I owned an old house and not that I'm against it, I just don't see why anybody would want to do it. But anyway, is there any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Next public hearing about...
This agenda item requests board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance, amending Ordinance 12-30 relating to the Wakulla County Restore Act. What this does, this will amend Sections 3, Duties and Responsibilities of the Wakulla County Restore Act Advisory Committee, Paragraph 5, to be amended as follows: prepare and present a ranked project and activity list to the Board of County Commissioners no later than 90 days after the Treasury has issued its final rules and guidelines. Prior to that, it was March 5th. We had put March 5th in. Also, Section 4 will be amended, membership of Restore Act Committee and meetings, Paragraph A, to be amended as follows: the members of the Restore Act Committee shall be appointed by resolution as a whole and shall include 13 people who are residents of Wakulla County. However, the TCC Wakulla member may be a non-resident of Wakulla County but must be an employee of TCC Wakulla.
If there is a motion on this issue, I would ask that we change the language slightly and say that the TCC Wakulla person doesn't have to live in the county, but I really feel strongly that the chairman of this should live in Wakulla County. That's what I would ask, is that whoever's the chairman of the Wakulla County Restore Act Committee be a Wakulla County citizen.
I fully agree.
I agree with you.
Okay, am I going to take that as a motion, Howard?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion, second. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Next item is presentation, monthly update Restore Act Committee. Mark Mitchell.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Mark Mitchell. And the action y'all just took kind of threw me for a little loop here. I am interim chairman, and I am a resident of Wakulla County, so I'm not sure what that means.
Welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks a lot. But along those lines, I just want to let y'all know it is a privilege and an honor to be on this committee. We feel like this is an opportunity for this county to move in directions it's never moved before. And everybody that is on this committee is dedicated to working as hard as it takes to make this the best thing that ever happens to Wakulla County. And we're all extremely excited about it. This monthly update, there's not much to it this month because we've not been able to do anything but housekeeping duties because we don't know where we're going with the feds. They haven't given us any rulings. I want to thank Cherie Keeler. She has kept me on task here, and it's been a job. And I want to thank David. He has done a great job helping us, leading us in this when we're so young. I've given all of you a copy of our report. I guess you've received it. I know you probably haven't had time to go over it, so I'll just go over some close things. One of the first things we went over was the mandate to have this update. Y'all mandated that we do this once a month, and we voted as a committee to do it at y'all's last meeting of every month. So that's when you'll be seeing me or whoever is the chairman. In the December the 4th meeting, we were all sworn in as officers and given training on the Sunshine Law. Means Ronald Fed and I can't be in the same room to talk about this. And I think that's a good thing. We're all working towards whatever it takes to make this transparent as we possibly can. Then we elected officers, and we first elected Bob Ballard as our chairman, and then elected me as our vice chairman. And that was just about everything. David gave us a report on the Restore Act, and we moved along. That was basically the first meeting. Shirley or David, y'all think anything else in the first meeting?
That's it.
All right, and in the second meeting, we were informed that Bob had to step down. So I moved in and took over the meeting from there. That's when we, as a committee, voted to ask y'all to change the ordinance and let the TCC member be a non-resident, and I think that's a great thing. I think Tallahassee Community College brings so much to the table. We need them on our committee for sure. And let's see, what else was that night? We went over the ordinance change so y'all could change it from the March the 5th to 90 days after we get the ruling from the feds. And Bill Williams, I don't know if y'all know who Bill is, but he gave us a report on the Restore Act itself and all of the money pots. And he's going to be our go-to guy who we need to help us determine what, there's so many money pots, we don't know where each project's going to come from, and Bill's going to be our lead in that. And then we voted at the January the 8th to have 5 public hearings around the county. And if you look on in your report, you'll see where they're going to be. We're going to start here in Crawfordville because we feel like the Crawfordville meeting will have the most people at it. And we have so many people asking us questions that we want to get to this as quick as possible. So we've got those started real soon. And the next thing is bring y'all up to date at monthly. And I believe that's about it. Sure, you think anything else I need to go over?
I'd like to make a suggestion, if maybe we could get this a couple days in advance.
I agree 100%.
You could make a brief presentation. If we had a question about something in here, we could ask it then, just a suggestion.
I agree 100%.
I have a clarification.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
At the meeting, the first meeting, I was still on the board, but I'm not anymore. But I do have a question for Heather. The attorney who was at that meeting on Sunshine and so forth, it's my understanding that members can, if a member should have a conflict, he can enter the discussion, but he cannot vote. How is that?
That's how that works for this board. On advisory boards, the statute actually reads a little bit differently.
Okay,
You cannot
that was-
enter into the conversation if you have a conflict.
Okay, that was my question, because on your board, you can't even, a member cannot even be in discussion. He can't vote or he can't discuss it. On our board, we can discuss it, we can't vote.
How does that affect the TCC representative then? Because I know they're trying to get Restore Act money for the educational center, is that correct?
Well, if it's something that would inure to their special private gain or loss, they would have to
So only
abstain from
private
voting
gain.
and would not, or if he has any financial, I don't know how, I doubt he has any financial interest in how TCC functions aside from his job,
But it's only direct financial gain.
or loss.
Personal.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I would like one point of clarification. We currently have an RFP out for consulting services for the Restore Act, and Bill is not our consultant, so he's helped us out, but as of right now, he's not our official consultant. We have that RFP out.
All right.
And we'll get it to you sooner.
Thank you. We have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve. Consent agenda as modified.
Yes, sir. How about a second?
Second motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No opposed. Item 8, Howard?
You want me to go ahead and start, Dr. Kessler? This is a cleanup item, a housekeeping item, to request board approval of a resolution and budget amendment to accept funding in a joint JPA from Florida DOT Transportation to update the airport master plan and airport layout plan for Wakulla County Airport. What this does, in essence, is we had budgeted $75,000 appropriated for this grant. The grant came in at $78,391, and all we're doing is adding $3,391 to our budget for this particular grant.
Is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion to approve.
How about a second?
I would second with the, how to do this. I think the citizen is going to make a point that we may want to possibly include as an amendment to that motion. With that in mind, I'll second it.
Okay.
Understand this is approved. All this does is, this is the budget amendment. Has nothing to do with anything else but the budget amendment.
Understand?
Okay.
This only has to do with Wakulla County's budget.
That's right. That's all.
Mr. Parr?
Thank you. Jim Parr, 2519 Surf Road. My comments speak to the scope of services that's been put forth with the budget amendment, and that particularly task 1.2 establishes a project advisory committee, yet task 1.1 there is a project kickoff meeting without inclusion of the project advisory committee. This is out of sync, in that we came before you last spring. We had a meeting of 60 people at the firehouse at Oclocking Bay, where we came together with the airport advocates and the neighborhood citizens. We left that meeting with a consensus that we would pursue what were the minimum for the airport. We had 4 people named from the airport side. We had 4 people named from the neighborhood side. We moved forward with identifying what the minimums were. And had that been successful, there would have been no need to spend these $75,000, because we were going to come together in harmony with that. Within days, that was just completely ripped apart by the actions of a person who was moving around and behind the scenes doing things to expand the minimums to include other things that would affect us, the people in the neighborhood, in a negative manner. That person also happens to be the only one that has a twin-engine plane in that airport, and that we have and that person also is the airport manager. And that to start this off, with project kickoff meeting stating that the airport representative be the one to define the scope of services before the project advisory committee is even formed is out of sync. You ought to first get the project advisory committee, neighborhood people, a community of people involved, then you define the scope of services. So that is my point, objecting to the scope of services that is laid out in the Kimley Horn plan that is attached to this budget item. Thank you.
I would like to withdraw my approval of that. I basically share the same opinion here, and if my approval of that agenda item is contrary to what you're saying, then I would like to withdraw mine.
I don't see where the scope of services...
It has nothing to do with it.
It's
already been approved and the contract signed. We're just getting everything kicked off. I talked to John Sewell today, and so we just got it signed and to them, and everything worked out last week. So we haven't even started the process yet.
I know everything ties together, but
all y'all talk about is budget. Do you want to add the $3,000 or not?
How to pay the bill we've already...
Well, not even that. It's just amending our budget. This is just a cleanup item, so...
I have a question about the money.
If you want to leave it unbalanced, it would unbalance the budget.
Okay. Let me finish with this and then we'll talk, okay? Bill Anderson?
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this item. While it may just be a budget item, there are two additional things which have been signed here. One is the supplemental joint participation agreement with the FDOT, which has been signed. Also, the consulting agreement, the scope of materials have been put together. The way this thing is stated, I think you all need to make very clear. It says update the master plan. The present master plan is over 25 years old. So rather than look at that, the FAA and the FDOT have 9 criteria when you do a master plan that you must look at. So rather than take something that's 25 years old and try to update it to the present thing, you ought to look at all of those 9 things starting over and make sure that your consulting agreement, and this is for the best result for the county, looks at all of those 9 things fresh. 2 of those important things are alternative locations for the airport and environmental issues, which some people think the present airport location does not fully comply or is not the best location for those. And as far as the master plan, that if you remember before the administrator was saying the FDOT was signed off on, I wrote 2 letters to the FDOT and they withdrew basically, and that's why they withdrew before the authorization that they had given and said you have to go back and do a master plan, and because that is their requirements in the FAA. So it got out of sync before. So I encourage you to do the master plan. You've got the consulting agreement, but go back and make sure your consulting agreement provides that they're going to look at all 9 of those items fresh, not just amend the existing plan, and that's not clear from the materials that have been submitted, even though this may just be a budget item and the other 2 things have been signed with the FDOT and the consultants. For the sake of the county, you ought to make sure those things are clear, what they're doing when they look at the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just read it real quick here, just we're all on the same page. On December 3rd, the board approved an amended joint participation with FDOT in the amount of $78,391 to allow the county to use the funds. So we've already voted to do it. If we want to bring it up again to change something, fine. But this is to how to pay for what we've already approved.
Thank you. I think the question, as I understood it, is there a distinction between updating a master plan or having a new master plan done? And does legal have an opinion on that? Like, what have we contracted for?
I don't have the specific scope of work in front of me to answer that question about what we've contracted with Kimley Horn, but I know the county administrator has had discussions with FDOT on the update versus new.
And it will be a new airport master plan, but it updates the original since you already have a master plan. It'll update that master plan.
So all items will be looked at.
That's right. All 9 items will be looked at. And also to let you know, it's not a problem what Mr. Parham was saying as far as meeting with this group. We've got to set all that. We just haven't had time to set all those ask for committee members and all that good stuff yet. Like I say, we just got talked with John Sewell this afternoon, in fact, or this morning while I was talking to you, Dr. Kessler. I was talking to John Sewell about this very thing, so about getting everything kicked off.
So it returns your calls and not mine?
That's right.
So this is just simply to pay for what it is that we've already...
All that is balances the budget. We had $75,000 budgeted. It came back in at $78,391 from the state, and all this does is add $3,391 to our budget that we don't have to spend this from DOT.
It just occurred to me, it's a fine line whether you win or lose, but I don't think I can vote on this issue simply because I have an interest at the airport.
On the budget amendment?
On the budget amendment?
I don't know how, that's a fine line. It's one of those deals, if I vote for something that's
Not approved, all you're doing is just proving where the dollars are going to be adjusted.
Which you have the money comes.
Is that correct, Heather?
You can,
I don't believe David, is that correct, Heather?
It is just a budget amendment.
Okay.
You can abstain from voting, and you just need to file the appropriate form with the clerk within 15 days of tonight.
Well, if it's a budget amendment, and it has no bearing on,
I don't see how anybody could possibly construe you getting personal benefit out of a budget amendment.
Yeah.
I'd feel comfortable.
okay.
I'm comfortable with you voting.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question, budget related. I was under the impression when we approved this last time that we approved it within the amount of the grant, and all the money was coming from grant funds.
You approved the grant at $78,391. We had budgeted $75,000 for it. And all this does is moves the budget up to $78,391.
So we're still spending only grant dollars and not any local
That's
dollars.
right. That's right. All this does is adjust it to whatever DOT gave us.
Okay.
We do that on, y'all see those come through. It could, sometimes they go up and sometimes they go down.
Right.
Any more discussion?
And I think I'd just like to make a point that we've already received that money. That's money that we've had for a while.
We've already received approval of the JPA. We'll have to, as work is done, we'll get reimbursed for that money. That's right. Now, let's make sure you had a motion and then you declined a motion.
I already asked him. He said he stuck with it.
Okay, so we're good with that? We do have a motion.
Second.
Okay.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? David, item 10.
All right.
Jessica, whoever name is on here.
Hold on, I got it. I just got to get there. I got to get there. You're way ahead of me. This agenda item requests board approval of the proposed resolution appointing members to the Wakulla County Community Center Advisory Group. On December 3rd, 2012, the board conducted a public hearing and adopted ordinance 1236 and amending the membership from 11 to 5 members and eliminating the background and experience requirements. On December 13th, staff sent out solicitations seeking 5 volunteers for the committee. And since then, we have 5 volunteers that we've identified. That is Tim Devlin, serve his initial term of 2 years. Mr. Rohit Shah, to serve initial term of 2 years. Brian Spagner, to serve initial term of 4 years. Dr. James Hillier, to serve initial term of 4 years. And Diane Perez, to serve initial term of 4 years.
Okay, we got a motion on this item?
I make a motion, we approve the resolution appointing members to the Wakulla County Community Center Advisory Group.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. David, I just have a quick question. How many people applied for this Citizens Advisory Committee? 5. Only 5?
5. My understanding is 5, yes.
And just a general question, I guess, because, we have this Restore Act Advisory Committee opening coming up, and a lot of people are asking to be on it, and I'm just wondering, in this case, I guess you just got lucky that only 5 people applied for it, because if 6 people had applied, we'd have to be up here deciding who to boot out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like to, I don't know if there's any way to make that maybe a little bit more streamlined, because we seem to have a lot of citizens committees. Maybe we could each rank and then flesh it out that way.
that may be something for especially the Restore Act one coming up, because you have four very well qualified candidates. I would suggest that we'll get that to you guys, and I'll get that to you beforehand. Y'all can do a ranking yourself, and that way you.
It is a little off subject, but I think it may save some embarrassment. You know, somebody hurting somebody's feelings because we didn't pick them as a volunteer over somebody else. And
I fully agree with you. I think we need to have a system.
Everybody's qualified.
Especially if there's some talents that the new person is bringing that's not currently on the board, if that can be highlighted as well.
Okay.
Like I said, if we could, I don't know if it's possible to do this.
Jessica and I will talk about this after the meeting, see what we can do.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hold on. Gail, I'm sorry. All right. Any opposed? Nobody's opposed. All right, item 11.
All right, this agenda item requests board approval of the 2013-14 budget calendar. The budget calendar lays out the budget development process so that the board and the public are aware of the events that will lead up to the adoption of the final budget in September. This calendar includes board workshops, public hearings, including those required under state law, and further citizen and board input to the process. I can go through the...
Motion to approve the FY 2013-2014 budget calendar.
Second.
I think Jerry beat you, Richard, on that one. We got a second from Jerry. Any more discussion?
You can be a third, Richard.
All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Item 12. It's going to be Jamie or you?
This would be,
Okay.
I'll handle it. If you have any specific questions, I'll probably call Jamie up since she's been more involved in it. This is an item we're requesting board to approval of an application for forgiveness of a code enforcement lien. This involves a case that began way back in 2011 dealing with a property. The property has since been brought into compliance. Although there were a significant amount of fines that accrued on the property before it was brought in compliance. It was brought into compliance by a subsequent owner, Ameris Bank. That is the applicant for forgiveness. At the time that the Code Enforcement Board had considered this case, they had recommended a partial forgiveness. However, they were not, at that time, we did not have the information available from the public records due to timing concerns. We hadn't had an opportunity to review it, we being the county attorney's office. After they made that initial recommendation, we reviewed it and determined that because the certified lien was filed actually after Ameris took title, they took title without it, and without that lien being in place, therefore we would recommend a complete forgiveness of this lien because it's probably unenforceable.
And I would personally support it just because, anyway, I'll let somebody make a motion.
I make a motion to approve to reduce the code enforcement lien CEB LR-003.
No,
I think it may be to forgive.
Yeah, item option 2, right?
Option 2.
Thank you.
Correction. Stand corrected.
So the motion is to forgive the code enforcement lien.
Correct. Option 2.
Evelyn, you got that?
I got it.
Richard, did you second the motion?
I second it.
I think none of these fines that were incurred were actual costs to the county, so we're not out of the pocket anything. And as has been said before, I think this encourages people to go ahead and clean their property up, which is the whole point of code enforcement. If they know if they clean it up, maybe they can get their lien forgiven. So anyway, that's my take.
Actually, the bank cleaned it up. The property owner didn't clean it up. It's from my opinion.
Somebody cleaned it up, and that helped the neighbors.
Yeah.
I have some comments, if I may.
Hey, go ahead.
I'm not still clear. I went over this during our conference, but I'm not still clear. As I understood it, because we were behind the mortgage, we were behind the bank as far as a guarantor, as far as the lien, that we weren't going to receive any, we're not going to receive any money from this, no matter how it flowed.
That's correct.
Okay. But at the same time, I don't think we want to set a precedent, and this is us speaking sort of, I don't know how much I can mess with the Code Enforcement Board, but the forgiving of liens, as far as not costing the county money, I look at it as costing the county money. Not in this situation, because there was no money to collect. But if we have, our code enforcement system is very lenient. It takes a long time before that entity gets before the Code Enforcement Board, and the Code Enforcement Board tries, from what I've seen, to bend over backwards. If you then go ahead and start, well, they've cleaned it up, let's reduce the amount of fines, you're sort of establishing, I don't want us to become like the ethics committee where all these regulations are set up and it goes for naught. You know, nothing happens with it. Plus, the board has allocated money to be spent to clean up areas that weren't cleaned up by people, and we've pretty much exhausted that fund from what I understand. So it does hamper us not to collect fees that are collectible. So I just want to be clear on that.
I certainly agree with some of your points. And I think that different situations should be treated differently. In cases where there's a foreclosure and the original property owner has no intention of ever cleaning it up, someone buys it and then they clean it up. And I happen to know this because I did this. I bought a house in Tarpine that was in code enforcement. I had to spend a lot of money to get it into, and I applied to get the lien waived, and it was agreed to. So, but I think I agree with you what you're saying. If it's the original owner and they just drag their feet for 3 years, maybe that's not a case where you forgive the lien.
Well, if I might,
kind of your point.
Yeah, it sort of exactly goes to the heart of it. I am of the belief that had we had enough funds there that we could have collected in this case, and had the lien been properly filed, then it's the bank's responsibility buying that piece or taking back that piece of property or have that lien on it, or somebody else that goes in and buys a piece of property with a lien that the county has on it is buying it with that obligation, and I think that obligation should stick.
I understand your point.
Okay.
And I don't know if that would have been solved in this case. I looked at public records, and there was a Liz Pendens that was recorded prior to this process starting, and so I agree with you that I think if we're going after someone, it needs to be the offender, and in this case, they came in and solved the problem and cleaned it up, and you know, I saw that code enforcement did everything by the book from my opinion, but in this case, we shouldn't punish the folks that came in and restored it and made it fit our code.
I
agree with you.
I have a question on that, though. It's my understanding that our lien was not filed until after Ameris Bank bought the property. Ameris Bank bought the property prior to the lien being filed.
They filed their list pendants before the Code Enforcement Board case began. They were sort of overlapping. The certified copy of the lien did not get filed until after they acquired title to the property. There was plenty of notice to them throughout the process, though. But there is they were technically first in time. It was a race to the courthouse steps. So it would be very difficult to foreclose on this lien.
And I looked at that, and code enforcement did notify Ameris Bank all the way through the process. It's just they had a superior lien, and we had a Liz Pendens in place. For those that may not know, that means that there's a foreclosure action pending, and so you know that would be maybe my only recommendation before we go down this road. If we take a look at that, because if we know someone is facing foreclosure, chances are pretty good that they're not going to cooperate with us, and they're not going to clean it up. They're not going to spend any more money because they're about to lose their house anyway. And so they were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and then Ameris came in and cleaned it up.
More discussion? Call for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. David?
The next item is a proposed revision to your meeting policy, which is policy 0701. We are recommending that the board approve the revised policy, specifically relating in section 8F. This is a section that basically outlines what the voting requirements are. Staff recently noticed that there is a Scrivener's error in this section that we are recommending that the board clarify.
You say a Scrivener's error?
A typo.
Scrivener's error?
Is that what that means?
Yeah, typo.
Yeah.
That's French for
Something new every day.
That's French for typo.
Scrivener error.
Scrivener's error.
Scrivener's. I see. I already forgot the word.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Howard.
I have one.
I second Howard's motion.
Hold on, please, hold on. I have some language that I'm recommending. I'd recommend that you make a motion to approve the revised Wakulla County Policy 0701 relating to majority voting section, and provide that the correction of the Scrivener's error is retroactive back to the original passage of the meeting policy in 2007.
How would you amend your motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
I second it.
More discussion? All for the motion? Aye. All right, on to Smith Creek. Do you have a citizen to be heard? Sorry? Chuck, you still didn't write it where I could read it.
That's a Scrivener's error.
That's
Yeah,
a Scrivener's error.
Scrivener Hess.
I'm really confused by this. Basically, was there a 4-1 vote needed for something, and now it's a 3-2, or I didn't understand this at all.
Go ahead,
so.
go ahead.
There was an error, and the majority vote was defined as a 4-1.
Oh, okay. That was it?
Yeah, okay, that's all.
Thank you.
All right, on to Smith Creek.
This agenda item requests board approval to declare the old Smith Creek Schoolhouse as surplus and authorize to donate to the County Historical Society.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I think I'm probably the one most qualified to represent Smith Creek here, so I talked to my family, and my grandma went to school here, and my brother lives across the road, and I think they're all generally happy that the Historical Society is going to take the building and maintain it.
Yeah.
It'll at least be taken better care of. All for the motion?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. David?
Okay. Hold on.
There's Brent Thurman on here, clerk of court, but I assume that means...
Brent is nowhere to be found.
Okay.
I took care of it for him. Request board approval of the cost-sharing agreement between the Second Judicial Circuit Court of Florida, Wakulla County, and 5 other counties in the Second Judicial Circuit Court for a circuit-wide integrated computer system. The court intends to enter into a software license service maintenance agreement with Mentis Technology Solutions, which would allow the Second Judicial Circuit Court to fully implement a circuit-wide, multi-county, multi-interface, integrated computer system that would be consistent and compatible with all 6 clerks' case and maintenance systems.
I make a motion we approve the cost-sharing agreement between the Second Judicial Court of Florida, Wakulla County, and the 5 other counties in the Second Judicial Circuit for a circuit-wide integrated computer system.
I'd like to make a second with, I'd also like to propose an amendment to that motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Howard.
Do you want me to, I have some proposed wording.
That's fine. Mine won't be as pretty.
And you're not going to use the word Scrivener either.
No, but it is going to be all in Latin. I'm just kidding. It's recently come to our attention that there may be some grant funds available for the same or similar purpose here. So what we are recommending is a modification to the interlocal to require the county to be reimbursed in the event funding is provided from another source to acquire technology solutions that will allow the courts to utilize electronic documents, produce case orders electronically, provide for electronic calendaring, serve orders through electronic process, generate case management reports, and provide other similar technology enhancements as are intended to be provided through the smart bench system that is the subject of this interlocal cost-sharing agreement. And I'll get that to you, Evelyn.
Richard, do you want to repeat what Heather just said, or you want to accept it?
I'm going to accept it as she said it.
Evelyn, you got it? Howard, you all right with that?
Yes.
More discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Passes? Oh, I'm sorry. Grant Sladen.
Hello, y'all.
Evelyn, while he's coming up, I don't know how you do it.
I'm Grant Sladen. I'm the court administrator for the Second Judicial Circuit. I apologize for the very fancy glasses I've got on. I was at the Southern Vitreoretinal Specialist this afternoon, and my pupils are like the size of saucers.
I think they look good on you.
Well, thank you very much. And now I'll make it worse by putting on double glasses necessary here. I can read. Not so good. There's really no point for me to speak at this point. Y'all have already passed the motion. There is the possibility that there may be additional funds, but we haven't tied down the cost of the entire project at this point. Basically, we've looked at what the license fees would be, and you're limited. There's a cap, the most you could pay. We've identified a source of funds to pay for it, so we have dedicated, restricted funds used to pay for this project already collected in the county. You can't use them for anything else. They're not general revenue funds. They're fee-based. The court develops itself through rulings or fees on cases or filing fee type things. But we do maybe have some other costs or something. And that's why at this point we're trying to pursue maybe some other revenue. Just putting in a paperless court system, you've got to now buy more bandwidth, and you've got to go buy maybe different monitors, and you need a bigger server, and you need bigger routers, and you need a redundant router. So there may be other costs. I can't guarantee if we identify some other monies, they may not be allocated to that purpose and not the license. And so that was, one of the concerns we had about maybe the amendment or something. If we do get some other monies, I can't just pour it all into the license fees, because then I don't have monies to do other essential parts of the project in the long run. It's still a developing project. It comes from a Supreme Court ruling in October that the clerks had to go to e-filing by April and October of this year for civil and for criminal, respectively. And so, because of that, we're still trying to define exactly all the costs and the parameters of it. We did want to we got a good deal on the software, the license fees, the maintenance, and those installation, those things. So we want to try to lock that down if we could in a multi-county environment. We've got 6 counties, and we want to have one system, hopefully, that all 6 counties could just trade information and data, make it a lot more useful.
Thank you, sir.
So, alrighty. Thank y'all very much.
David?
This item requests board approval of the budget amendment to transfer funds for payment of final settlement agreement in the case of Robert Roddenberry versus Wakulla County. On January 7th, the board approved final settlement agreement in the case of Robert Roddenberry and Wakulla County to be paid from the general fund reserves. No budget amendment was brought forward before the board at that time. The payment for the final settlement agreement will finalize the case, which will be dismissed with prejudice. What this does is this takes the $120,000 settlement. $100,000 will come from the general fund disaster contingency reserve, $18,000 from the general fund reserve. The balance left over of $1,886 from the budget line that we had for this particular case. We assigned for that, and therefore that will leave us with a general fund reserve of $75,000, budgeted reserve of $75,392. That's not our reserves. That's just the budgeted reserves for this year.
I'll make a motion. We approve the budget amendment.
Second. Motion is second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, first, I understand we're taking out the reserves, but I'd much rather see us making cuts, because what it appears, and I understand. I didn't understand what you're saying with prejudice. What does that mean?
Well, she can explain that to you.
When you dismiss with prejudice, you cannot refile.
Okay. All right. So as I understand it, we legally didn't admit any wrongdoing.
No.
Okay. But what I'm hearing out in the community is that, well, we must have done something to pay out $250,000. And we're trying to build up our reserves. We're taking money out of the reserves now, and so the attitude that I don't know what you're receiving out in the community, but I'm receiving out in the community are 2 things. One is it deals with money. We're saying basically the county does something wrong, even though we didn't admit we did something wrong. We make a settlement, we pay, we then go and tax the people. So that's upsetting out there. The other thing is the concern of where we are with our process, and I think as far as medical procedures and protocols, that I think I'll bring that up under discussion. But I'd like to see us trying to make cuts rather than taking that out of reserves.
I'm going to have to just go along with it as we did, that I agree with it come out of reserves, because that's what we have the reserve money for unexpected expenses. If we had to go and remake cuts every time we had an unexpected expense, that would create a new problem. So I'm for using it out of the reserves, which is what we have the funds for.
More discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose it on principle.
Thank you. David?
Okay, hold on. this is, your next agenda item is your commissioner agenda items. We don't have anything added on, so.
Okay. Next one is your item, request board approval or letter.
You don't have anything, Heather? Okay. Yes, request board, this is an agenda item, request board approval of a letter of support to FDOT to add US 319 to the state intermodal system. The FDOT has requested a letter of support for consideration of the addition of a strategic intermodal system designation for the corridor along US 319 from US Highway 98 in Wakulla County to the Tallahassee Regional Airport, which would also include Capital Circle, Northwest Leon County. What this does is this is a positive step for Wakulla County. This is something that Commissioner Merritt has been talking to the CRTPA about, and also to DOT, and both he and I went to DOT and talked about this. The DOT is recommending this from District 3 to Central Office. We've got letters of support that'll be flowing into Central Office from CRTPA, Blueprint 2000, as well as District 3 themselves and the Airport Authority as well, in support of turning 319 into a SIS.
This is a big item. This is how the city of Tallahassee was able to leverage their Blueprint 2000 fund. They got millions of dollars because of access to the airport. So this is a big item. And on the CRTPA agenda for our next meeting, the resolution is on there supporting designating the road as that. So this should
very big item.
Yeah, this should really help us get some funding. David, you wanted any more discussion about that item?
I was just questioning whether that in any way in the next meeting, in any way, does this enhance or restrict the county's ability to have input on the design of the road?
I wouldn't think so. I don't, it's just a separate availability of funding is my understanding.
Yeah, it affects the funding and priority of funding.
They don't design a road any different because
it affects funding and priority of funding. Am I right, Mr. Smith? He's the guru. Anyway, if I can get a vote on that, please.
Do we need a motion?
Yes. Somebody needs to
make a motion that we approve the chairman to sign the amended FDOT LAP agreement, amendment to the KHA IPO 21011-1, and for staff to advertise construction and CEI procurement documents.
Wow. Do we have a second on that? All right. Motion is second. Any more discussion? Off the motion? All right. Aye. David, you want to talk about DOT LAP?
Yes. Request board approval of an amendment to the FDOT LAP agreement, amendment to Kimley Horn Associated Incorporated individual project order to provide for additional design and procurement bidding services for Phase 3 of the Ocotney Bay Bike Trail, and advertise RFPs for construction and CEI services. All this does is we're shuffling money around with them between the engineer and the construction services. We had some problems with a couple of wetland crossings that we're going to have to span, so therefore our design fees went up a little bit. This is in coordination with FDOT. They're in agreement with this, and we just need to amend this and ask for approval to move forward. It doesn't cost us any more money. All it does is work within the budget.
I make a motion to approve the chairman to sign the amended FDOT LAP agreement, amended to the KHA IPO 21011-1, and for staff to advertise construction and CEI procurement documents.
A second.
Motion second. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
This is on Phase 3.
Yes, sir.
Right. What is Phase 3?
Phase 3 is from where the project, if you're coming from Ocotney Bay up Surf Road, if you're heading towards Surf Road from Ocotney Bay, it's from where really it's about the closest landmark I can tell you is about where the marina is, the Bayside Marina. From Bayside Marina to where the trail starts there, and where it's just been finished in the refuge. Yes, sir. We don't have funding currently for Section 2, Phase 2. We're working on that funding, as well as we don't have funding for 5B, which extends it into Sopchoppy. We're working on that as well.
And so on this Phase 3, where will the trail be? Will it be on the bay side of that road, or will it be on the...
I'm not sure, Dr. Kess.
It's been moved?
It's been moved.
Okay, that's the big deal. It's not going to be where all the driveways are.
But I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I need to
That's you
verify
shaking your head in
that.
back of you.
She's, whatever she says.
Okay.
David, is this one of the projects we moved around to CRTPA after you and I talked to Harry that day. We assured him we could get it done in a timely
Yes.
fashion and pushed it up a budget year, correct?
Right.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're going to go ahead and do citizens to be heard now, so if anybody has not filled out a card yet, if you would, please. That's all of our agenda items, correct?
That's correct.
Gina Rudd? Yes, ma'am, unless you don't want to go first.
It's okay.
All right, get it over with.
Okay, I already spoke with the planning director, Louis Cerna, about this, but I really just need direction on how to move forward in possibly getting the RMH1 mobile home ordinance number 9312 specific to Griner's Addition either amended or rescinded. I understand that the whole purpose is to protect the characteristics of the neighborhood. I understand nobody wants to have junky homes being moved in. But to have these added restrictions on restrictions that are already in place, it's become a huge headache for my husband and I. We own property in Griner's Addition. One of the issues with the ordinance 9312 is you can't have a mobile home installed older than 2 years. We can't afford a mobile home that's less than 2 years old. I don't know where to go from here. And I have so many more things I want to say. It's confusing. Ordinance 9312 says some places in Griner's Addition can have single wide mobile homes or double wides. Other places in Griner's Addition can only have double wides. Some need to be this far back from the road, some it's okay to be this far. It's really confusing. When we bought the property, nobody told us this. Nobody. There's also a very limited place to buy mobile homes in this area. So when you have the restrictions on top of not a lot to choose from to begin with 3 kids and not a lot of money, we're kind of stuck. So I know I tried to go through the planning department. Apparently they can't do anything, so I'm looking to you guys for help. What can we do to either get this amended, changed, thrown out, what have you, and possibly hear your thoughts on it.
We're not allowed to banter back and forth. I would contact your individual county commissioner. That'd probably be a good start. That way you could sit down. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you. It would have to come from a commissioner. I don't know the details about it. I don't know if it's deed restrictions, if it's zoning, if it's future land use. Some things we can do something about, some things we can't.
Okay.
So I would start there.
Get with my county commissioner.
Yes, and if they don't get good enough, call me. I'm not your county commissioner, but I'll do what I can.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know any better than anybody else, but I know a little bit more about planning items probably.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. Alfred Nelson?
Commissioners, how you doing?
Good.
I'm here to discuss Macedonia Church. Our church was actually damaged by Tropical Storm Debbie in June of 24th of 2012, and we filed a petition with FEMA for FEMA to repair our church. The church was in the process of making plans to have services somewhere else. We noticed that after that storm that the roof had started to divide, and we were making plans to have services somewhere else. And I guess someone called the code enforcement board, and they came out, and that's their duty. I used to work with the county, so I don't have anything with them coming out and doing their due diligence. But the problem that we have is that we tried to discuss issues with the code enforcement, and I heard Commissioner Kessler said they take I guess the code enforcement is patient with everyone. I guess everyone but us. The code enforcement team came out to our building and assessed it and said the roof is going to fall down at any time. And so at that time I called my engineer, because we had already had the building assessed by an engineer, and I had him to discuss it with, he said he called the county administrator and discussed it with the building official about the situation concerning our building, and he didn't feel that the building was going to fall down any time. And so what we had him to do was to come back out and do another assessment on the building, and he still was up to that same determination. And what we tried to do was let the code enforcement team know that, hey, the engineer is not the same assessment that you have, they don't have. And the only thing that we want to do, we don't want to use the sanctuary. We agree for public safety, even if it wasn't going to fall down, we don't want to use it. But we have a rear portion of the church that we wanted to use, and the engineer felt that it was perfectly safe to use the rear portion of the church. And this is where our divide with the code enforcement team, because they give us 10 days for a church, and this is a $100,000, maybe $100,000 job to come up with a plan or come up with the proper documents for the county to make sure that we're in compliance. And a church can't do that in 10 days. There's no way you can do it. You can't do it in 3 months. Maybe 6 months you can do it, because you spend $100,000. You got all these people involved in that. And so also the county issued I was out of town, actually going back and forth out of town, when the call came to me, and Jamie called and asked me when could I meet with her, and I told her I could meet with her on a Thursday. My 3 minutes up. No, that's fine. Well, anyway, Jamie asked me when could I meet with her on, and I told her I could meet with her on a Thursday and not the Wednesday. And so she filed a criminal warrant to go into the church. I can't understand what's going on, and I offered the documents from our engineer. No one would accept them. I was told when we go before the code enforcement board that you can present those documents. Show them that we already had an engineer to assess it. We already had a contractor to tell us how much it was going to cost to fix it. We had already made our plans to move out of the church, but nobody wants to hear that. So what has happened, a red sticker was put up on the church. The church was, a border was put around the church. This is a historical church in our community. It's not like you can make a decision overnight. Every black family in this community has at one time been a part of this church. One of the first Pentecostal churches in this county. One of the first Pentecostal churches of a national movement. The patience that I hear that the code enforcement board has had with everyone else, I don't feel that it has. And also, when I showed up to the code enforcement board, we have an attorney, but I felt that we can go and just discuss it with the code enforcement board, get more time. When I showed up, they only gave us a notice to come to that meeting. And then when I showed up at the meeting, they gave me 18 documents and said, okay, this is our findings. Well, how can we respond to that at the meeting? And I voiced that at the meeting, and then the code enforcement attorney said, yes, if it wasn't due process, then we don't need to have the meeting, we can postpone it. But they continued on with the meeting. I don't know what the problem is. If the code enforcement has all the patience that I hear tonight, then why they're not having patience with Macedonia Church? That's it.
Thank you, sir. Jim Farr?
Wait till the end to say it.
All right. Terry Roberts?
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I know that we don't interject, but I just wanted to caution you all, this is an active matter before your code enforcement board. They're a quasi-judicial body. I don't think this is an appropriate forum for you all to discuss the merits of a matter that's pending before the code enforcement board, so I'd ask you to refrain.
So we could get ourselves out of the county in a legal jam by discussing this in this forum. Is that what you're saying?
Potentially. It's not a matter, it's a matter that goes to the code board, and any appeals of anything the code board does, it's not final yet. No fines have been assessed or anything. There is a time for compliance that has been put at
March 9th is when they had to have a plan of action.
March 9th. So it's still a pending matter before that board.
With that, I'd ask that we not discuss this. We're trying to prevent lawsuits, not get more. Mike Stewart?
Thank you. Good to see all of you again. And I'm Mike Stewart, 754 Ravenco Road. I want to thank the four of you who refused to support Mr. Kessler's personal political agenda at the last Board of County Commissioner meeting. As you well know, the public service tax that he is attempting to do away with is sorely needed in our county and is the fairest tax we have. It allows all residents to pay their fair share and will allow this board to further roll back the ad valorem taxes on the homesteaded homeowners. I encourage each of you to stay the course, as difficult and unpopular as it may be, because it will benefit this county for generations to come. You gentlemen were elected to listen to the people, but more importantly, to weigh what the desires of the people are with what is best for our county. Mr. Kessler, I hope you will reconsider your opposition to this needed tax and make every effort to work with this board and be guided by what's best for our county, not only on this issue, but the myriad of issues that will come before you during your term. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. We were just talking that we should not talk about the code enforcement. What about, and it hasn't happened, but what about if this gentleman had come to me and asked me questions about this and he and I had discussed it without me knowing about the code enforcement action? Where would I be in that case?
I mean, I just didn't want the board to, you'd be fine. I mean, I'd always...
Are we the appellate body?
No, you're not.
Okay.
It would go to court. If you were the appellate body, my advice would be even stronger. But the fact is that you have an appointed code enforcement board. This matter is pending before them, and I would hate for this board to give mixed signals or anything being discussed in this public forum that may be construed by them as an attempt to influence their ultimate
But if it were outside this public forum, then we could discuss it. Is that correct?
You're free to discuss it with individuals' complaints, yes.
Not that I would, but I'm just trying to clarify what I can and cannot do.
Yes, and if you have any questions at any time, feel free to just call me and ask me.
I think we'd all agree that everyone needs to be treated fairly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I don't.
And I would just like to ask, just from on, I have spoken to Mr. Nelson about it a little bit because he's in my district, and I was just wondering what limits do I have as far as that, because I am his commissioner, he's in my district. Okay.
You're free to talk to your any member of the public who has a concern.
Okay.
What I don't want is, like I said, is signals or mixed messages or anything to come from this board to the code enforcement board about a pending matter.
Okay.
Moreover, I wouldn't want you to try and, if you were the appellate board, which you're not in this case, but if you were, and in some cases you are, you really need to maintain a neutral posture coming into any quasi-judicial matters.
Generally speaking, then, if we know something's going on between the code board and an individual, we really need to stay out of it and let that system work its way through.
That's best. You're free to hear their complaints.
Okay.
I would.
If it's under enforcement action, I think if it's an ongoing complaint and you can explain it a little better or say, if you can do this, or this. Discussion. Ralph, you got anything you want to talk about?
Yes. Not much.
Yes, you're 5 minutes.
I attended the Gulf Consortium meeting in St. Pete last week, and just wanted to give you just a brief update on that. There's now 22 Gulf counties that have joined in the consortium, basically everyone except Franklin County, and I don't know why. I think Franklin County is just kind of laying back to see how it all comes together, so no indication that they don't plan to join, but they haven't so far. They did elect the officers. 3 officers were elected. If you want to know the counties, I've got that, and they plan the officers will add 2 additional members that are going to be basically the board of directors for the consortium. I guess the big thing everyone wants to know is, when's the money coming? That's what it all boils down to, and they don't know that yet. After talking to all the interagencies, they still don't have an estimated time on that, but we're just continuing to move everything forward. The
heart monitor beating over there?
It's your alarm going on.
Okay. Sorry, Ralph.
The next thing that next course of action, we approved to move forward with a request for information to solicit a plan, to start a development plan. So just start that process. So at this consortium level, just like we're developing a plan here locally, the consortium is doing that as well. And so at this point, there's not a lot of money there for that, but they've requested a request for information to determine how much money will be needed. And
Like a regional plan you're talking about?
exactly, that will cover the entire 22 county area.
We're going to try to get as many of our things in that plan, I guess, as possible.
We will certainly try.
That's
We
right.
have a vote that, and also
That'll be affecting pots 2 and 3 primarily,
I got you.
right.
not our pot.
And just for those that may not know, we're part of the 8 disproportionately affected counties, which is a part of that, but that's still a separate group. So the 8 counties have the largest percentage.
Is this the one that's inversely proportional to the distance from the...
Yes.
That one killed me right there.
Yeah, yeah.
And the next meeting is scheduled for February 22nd. They haven't pinned down the location yet. Possibly Tallahassee. They're definitely shooting for the Panhandle. Public is invited to come attend, speak for 3 minutes. If you've got any proposals that would have a regional impact, that'd be a good place to do that. But
They do have a meet somewhere in Tennessee at a restaurant. Or the comedy down there.
need a big table though.
Yes, big table.
Big table.
That's it.
Okay, Jerry, got anything to talk about?
Just a little bit. I was reading today in the newspaper online that the market for resale homes is the lowest it's been in 10 years. And that's on a national basis. What that means, now, I don't think they probably threw in the foreclosures that maybe the banks have, but the market for resale homes, that's like you selling your home, is the lowest that it's been in 10 years. That's back in 2002. So this market may turn around. It's got to turn around because we still have the same demand for homes. The financial approval is a little more difficult, but we're looking at a little bit of bright light on the horizon.
That's a national statistic?
That's a national statistic, but you know how numbers are. Whoever's writing the numbers can choose what they put in them, and it was the Realtors Association writing these numbers, of which I'm one. But anyway,
The reason I asked Jerry is I was at the Tallahassee Builder Association meeting the other day, and one of the guest speaker was the Tallahassee Board of Realtors president, and they say it's up 12% from last year, at least in that market in Tallahassee.
we're talking about two different items.
Sales.
Yeah.
Inventory is actually going down.
That's
The
what he said.
inventory is the lowest that it's been in 10 years.
Sorry, I thought
The
you
inventory
It's the resale inventory, not sales are up.
Right, yeah,
The inventory on resale homes.
It's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Now, if we were rid of the foreclosures, then this would be unbelievably good news going forward. But anyway, it's really good news too, because the number of homes available for buyers on the resale basis is the lowest it's been in
In other
10
words,
years.
there's not so many homes on the market that is dragging the values down.
It's the foreclosures.
Yeah, I think it's a little skewed because there's not a lot of resale homes for sale because a lot of those folks have lost their homes and can't sell them. And then a lot of homes are worth less than what they paid for, so there's not a big rush for people to sell, because they can't get that price.
It's definitely picking, I'm an engineer, and I'm usually one of the first steps in construction, and it's picked up. And there's actually some builders in Tallahassee that are scrambling for lots right now. Now, it's doing a lot better up there than it is here, of course. It'll come down. Now,
It'll come down because of our great school system.
correct. And the beach, which, the water,
And a great county.
and the national forest. We can go on and on, going about the county. Anything else? I wanted to, when we pull a consent item, Howard, we did this earlier. Should I go to the commissioner that pulled the consent item, y'all think, or just go to David to say, explain the consent item, or should I say, Commissioner, you wanted it pulled, tell us what issue you have with it?
I'd say the latter. Go to the commissioner first. The reason
The one that actually pulled the consent item, I would go to him.
I don't know. I mean, any of us can pull a consent item. Just procedurally, how would y'all like to handle it?
I would think that the person who pulled it should be the one who's going to be talking about it.
Is that?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I wasn't intending to talk about it. I was intending to have the citizen talk about it.
Okay. Well, let's just, if Ralph pulls, I'll say, Ralph, I'll go to you first. If you want to defer to David, that's fine. That's up to you. If that works fine with you.
Good for me.
Not that you're pulling it out, but anyway. We'll talk about the tobacco thing later. Howard, I assume you want to talk about it. Just going into our budget hearings, I've been talking to David about this. There's a lot of pretty large expenses we know we have coming up. For example, the groundwater remediation at this site that we're sitting on right now, that could run.
A meeting on that last week, we're looking at $600K.
Okay, well, hopefully that number will go down somehow, but we're looking at a big expense for that. If we ever do get money to improve our intersections or four-lane our roads, we have to pay to relocate our sewer infrastructure. DOT will not pay for that. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. My point is, going in, I think maybe instead of just having a Wakulla County Commissioner Savings Account, the reserve, we need to try to designate these reserves. We can still get to them, but let's start saving up for things that we know are coming. And I just think that'd be the smart thing to do.
I agree with you.
We need to keep building the reserve, stay on track, but let's not stick our heads in the sand and say we'll figure it out when we get there. We need to be planning ahead. And not that we're not doing it, but just on large expenses I'm talking about. This could be $600,000, and that would wipe our reserve out.
When you say remediation for this site?
Yeah, so it used to be the sheriff's department. There's an underground fuel storage tank here, and it's contaminated the groundwater.
Under here?
Yeah,
Under here.
Right under our feet.
If I could jump in on that, just be a good time. Commissioner Kessler at our first meeting recommended us having a retreat, and I know that's been typical in the past. This would be a good thing for us to discuss at that, and I'd like to see if we can get a head nod maybe to go ahead and pin that down. My only thing, just my personal preference, I've seen those retreats in the past. It seemed like it was almost to build a wish list of new things to expand, and in my mind, I don't want to expand anything. I want to focus on what we have. Let's tighten down. Let's make sure that what we have, like these things we have to deal with, let's deal with those, but let's prioritize them, and let's figure out, let's get them all on one list. Certainly it'd be nice to expand. We've been talking about transportation to and from Tallahassee at previous retreats, but right now we've got to deal with have to have items, and then we can deal with those as our budget comes back.
How long is the first budget hearing it's in March, February, right? First budget.
February.
How long is that scheduled for? 2 hours?
Normally it's about 2 hours.
Okay, we'll certainly have 2 hours. That'd be like
An hour. Well, if she was an hour, we can do it.
Could schedule a little longer time at that. I mean, that's certainly an appropriate time to talk about that. It's a budget development workshop.
We can move them up in the day, and we can change that up and move it up in the day and make a couple.
Richard, what's your schedule like on that one?
I'm totally flexible.
Okay. Howard, I think you'd agree we'd like more time to hash them out.
I was looking at a day and another day to follow. I mean, I think this is big stuff, and I think we have to, for the most part, I think Commissioner Thomas is absolutely right. We have to take care of the things that are in front of us, but we may be surprised, and when we open our minds, that there might be some things that we're not addressing that we may consider a priority and have to get on the ball with.
Could we continue at the first budget hearing? I know we've set the schedule now, right? So we have
March 7th is the first one.
March 7th. We have that day scheduled the budget hearing. Could we continue?
We can schedule the workshop for all day. You want to
Y'all want to try to just start in the morning and let's just see what happens?
That'd be
we need to have enough on the agenda to carry us that day. We need to know what we're going to be talking about.
We'll work with you guys, and I would.
We don't have to talk all day, but I mean,
they have to talk all day.
There's a lot enough time to cover whatever.
We'll work with you guys on that, but I would, we need to help. Y'all will need to help us with the agenda and what you want to talk about.
When did the remediation on this? When did that come up? This is the first time I've heard about it.
Years and years. We've been on a list for years. That certain level of pollution, and once they took care of all the really problem spots like Michelle's Grocery or like Trice Lane office, they trickle down the list and they say, all right, your time has come. You reach the threshold now.
Okay, when did they tell us that our time had come?
I think we're, well, I don't know if they've officially told us our time has come right now, but we know they're going to tell us.
Wow.
But we didn't have any idea. How much the grant they give us to do just the
There was,
monitor well?
initially was $400,000 grant,
Spent $400,000.
but understand is you have to monitor it, and that was for monitoring and remediation. The problem is the state, they kept saying, well, it isn't far enough out, and you kept monitoring it, it was getting lower, then it would get higher. But we can't kick the can down any further. The state sent us a letter 2 weeks ago that said you've got to move forward with plans to move to remediate the problem, period.
So it's expanding, is that right? I understand it's expanding.
It's expanding.
Growing.
So if it's underneath this building, we could tear the building down and get it out.
Trust me, it's not underneath. It's not just underneath this building. And if it was that case, it wouldn't be a problem. It's expanded. It's expanded off of county property.
I understand that.
That's where the problem is.
So we'll have to do the remediation on that property.
We'll do remediation here that'll affect that property.
And what was set in on this property? Service station?
No, it was the county sheriff's department. It was their fuel tanks. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And to really spook you up a little bit, same thing at the landfill. We've been slipping by about this much of that landfill year after year because of arsenic, which crab waste. Crab waste is buried there for years. They just dig a hole and bury it. And at some point, I can almost guarantee you, DEP or somebody's going to say, that's it. Well, it's iron.
We're at that right now. In fact, DEP, we've sent samples off of the crab waste, of the arsenic, and we're trying to determine whether it's toxic or it's not, and then that'll determination on the capping that we'll have to implement all that in there. That could run that cost up higher as well.
Now, iron also, and iron probably comes from rust, which probably comes from the C&D, which he's talking about, which has a lot of nails and a lot of things that rust in it. So iron's another issue, not as critical as arsenic. Now, the source of the arsenic, which was the old Class 1 landfill, has been capped since, and I think it's been dealt with, but anyway, that's something that's still there, and I'm not even going to mention the Meadowlark landfill, because you really wouldn't like that.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Save that for another day.
Nothing bad, just...
Well, there are real problems we need to deal with at some point.
We're going to have to deal with them. Just real quick, couple more things. I talked earlier about proceeding with a nonpartisan referendum item on 2014 vote to change the thing.
I will oppose that.
Okay. Howard, I think you said you'd oppose it also.
No, I didn't.
Okay. I'm not going to waste anybody's time.
I didn't.
Anyway, just think about it some more. We don't need to vet it right here. Just think about it some more, and I'll maybe bring it up next discussion if you...
So think about it some more.
Okay. One more thing. I was approached by members of a community known as Green Lantern. I don't know if y'all know where that's at or not. Probably very few do. Gene Cutchins told me the old, when you'll like this, at the old intersection of 98 and St. Mark's Highway, said there used to be a railroad station there, and they'd only stop if there was a Green Lantern hanging out at the train stop. Anyway, if that group pursues designating that town as a district or whatever, a Green Lantern, it's on 2 state roads, so it wouldn't be a county road, and if they're willing to pay for whatever's on there, whatever signs or whatever, and they are willing to apply to the state to get that designation, that just if we would support them, not spend any money.
Now, this is at Wakulla Bank and
correct.
St. Mark's Power.
It's just a designation. I'd be in favor.
I don't understand it, so I'd have to find out more about it.
It's just basically designation, right?
Yep.
Just designated.
Well, we did it with was it on Obadiah Triplet Road over there? What's that area? Hyde Park. We didn't agree to pay for anything, but they approached the board and wanted to put some signage up there, and everybody supported that. It's just something along those lines.
Just for signage?
Yeah. Not to make it a incorporated city or anything. Only about 4 or 5 people live there, but.
Okay. My only question, would it restrict what you could do?
No. It's just a sign.
Just tie into our historic ordinance that we just approved?
No, I'm saying if a couple guys want to get together and buy some signs that say Green Lantern, we would not oppose it, is all I'm saying.
It sounds pretty good.
Just like Newport. Newport's not designated as anything, but there's a sign there that says Newport.
Let them go for it.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe that's something they can work in with the TDC or something.
Yeah.
It's a local spot.
It's a weird name.
Green Lantern. I've heard of red lights.
It's a superhero.
Red light district.
That was the real Green
Haven't heard of that
before the comic book came out. Richard, you got anything?
Have some red light districts in New Orleans.
All right, Howard, what you got?
Well, I've got two things that we'll just work all the way backwards. One is, and I had some discussion during the meeting today on this Roddenberry settlement and just our procedures and protocols, and it was suggested I might get together with the medical director and pursue looking over some of that. But the more I thought about it, I don't think that, first of all, it's not my specialty. Okay, there are specialties that take care of that type of thing. But I'm unclear of where we are with our protocols right now, and I didn't seem to get an answer from when I tried to inquire. And I just asked the board to consider thinking about possibly getting someone outside of our community, outside of our medical director, to look at our procedures and protocols specifically as it relates to this case and see what we can learn about it.
Is there anyone you know that would look at them pro bono?
I could look at that. I could make some phone calls on that.
I think that is it intubation. Is that I'm not horrible with medical terms.
It's intubation.
It's correct.
Intubation.
That's correct.
I'd be happy if you would.
I'll pursue that.
I mean, I think we all want to do what's best for the citizens and what's safest. So any input certainly welcome.
Okay.
If there's any way that we can improve our procedures and protocol, I'm for it.
Okay.
I would just have a question for the attorney, if that's going to impact our agreement on the...
The agreement's not been finalized yet, so we'll wait. Well, it hasn't been. Nothing is finalized till the court accepts it and the case is dismissed, which you guys made a budget amendment tonight. That's the next step. So we'll hold off. I would just hold off a little bit on that.
No problem.
And another thing that we may want to check into, I don't think it's going to violate the terms of the settlement, at least none that I am aware of. I'll verify that again as soon as I get the final copy back from the fact attorney. But I do know that fact in preparing to go to trial on this case did retain an outside expert. That may be another source that you may want to look to.
And it may not be cut and dry. It may be, the opinion may be, well, that's not the absolute best way to do it, but given the circumstances that you work with, your distance of travel, maybe this is the most suited thing. I don't know. I'm certainly not a doctor.
Yeah, I certainly won't do anything until I hear from legal. Okay. And now we're back at tobacco-flavored products. And let's see if I can pull up those notes. Good. Okay. So the question is, where do we go from here as far as working on an ordinance that we can have come back to the board? And what I think is necessary for this is that we have different areas of involvement. Certainly the legal area, where we can and cannot make an ordinance that would withstand a challenge. I know anyone can challenge us, but we certainly want something that's very well defendable. I personally think we have a moral obligation to do something for our children in this respect. I'll go back to before I went to college and I was thinking of becoming a doctor. I was reading medical texts, and at that time, medical texts talked about lung cancer as a strictly male disease with a few female cases unexplainable. Okay. Well, those statistics have been turned on their head once women started to smoke. And all of the verbiage that we had, just like Commissioner Moore said about getting those packs of cigarettes when they were in the service, and also getting a little break in order to smoke them while the guys that didn't smoke had to keep on working, were incentives to start smoking. We know better now. We know that the tobacco industry was not forthright with the citizens of our country. They knew that they were harming our citizens, and yet they proceeded to sell a product that was damaging. It appears that and there are some documents that may even make it more than appears, that this candy flavor is intended to reach out to the youth, the new smokers, the new generations that will be coming forward. And instead of making progress, we may be slipping backwards. So I think on a moral ground we have, as a board, to do whatever we can do reasonably to move forward. And I would like to sort of ask that the board, well, have some suggestions on how to move forward with this, how to workshop this. I think that there were some things that were done hurriedly in this past ordinance. I think that the business community has to be included, but I think all options have to be on the table. And so I'm just asking for board discussion on how do you think is best to get there.
I had asked Tanya at the
Poppy,
to get with Jessica and maybe get her some. She said there are successful model ordinances that have been put out more directed towards product placement, and I think that came up a couple of times with the kids, younger folks that were speaking earlier, and that may not be that much grief at all on the people selling it. You can still sell it, but if you're not in a shop that specializes in tobacco products and that's all you sell, or that's mostly what you sell, then it needs to be a certain height off the ground. I don't know, or it needs to be behind the counter, or it needs to be, that point was well taken, and I think there are things we can do to accomplish a goal without being too onerous.
Well, and of course there's that balance between how much do we want to be proactive and helping protect our youth with a profit. And it's hard to...
My issue, I'm sorry I don't mean to interrupt you, but the protecting the children versus protecting your rights. If somebody wants to smoke a guacamole flavored cigar, then they should be able to do it. I mean, and again, I changed my mind. I did vote for this last time. That's the issue to me, is not profit, but your personal rights.
And if you give me a second. The reason that I voted to the Senate goes a lot with what Randy says. I'm not a tobacco user. I don't use tobacco in any products. I fully agree with you that it is a serious health problem, and I'm fully against minors using tobacco. However, we have laws in place that if someone is 18 and they're allowed to purchase tobacco products, and I believe they should have the right to choose if they want to have candy flavored or any kind of flavor. I had people who were 50 and 60 years old who were calling me at home asking me were they no longer going to be able to buy their tobacco, and the very kind they were listing was some of the candy flavors that we were led to believe were only being used by children. Many of these things are also being used by adults, and I believe that if they're over 18, they should have the right to choose if they want to, and also put a lot of responsibility on someone's own personal choices and their actions. We can put all the information there to let someone know that it's bad for your health, but at the end of the day, I believe they should have the freedom to make that choice.
And I somewhat agree with all of the statements, except that I also take issue, and this may seem very cruel and very harsh, but when people get cancer, we're all paying for the bills. And so people are making personal choices out there. I don't think we should make it easy for our children to make certain personal choices.
I don't think we should certainly shouldn't make it easy. That's why I spoke about maybe the product placement. But using the same analogy, we every time somebody gets in a car without insurance, we pay. We know that. So.
Right. I've also, and I don't have the ordinances, but I've been told, I think, that there actually have been ordinances, not in our state, but similar to ours, that may have been upheld in other areas of the country. And if that is so, then that may be less of an issue if the board wanted to address it. But the idea is to gather these facts, know what our options are, and then proceed from there, and that's what I'm asking the board.
I'd be interested to see what the health department would.
I basically, we all agree that smoking's bad, and we doubly agree that children smoking's twice as bad. I think this is something that we could send a resolution to our state legislators and ask them to tighten up the rules so that when it comes down to us. But I think that's pretty much where it has to start. It has to start, in this case, up at the top, and let us support the state tightening up on that. I don't know. The bad thing about it is that a pack of cigarettes, I think, costs maybe $5. Some people smoke a pack a day, and then we complain about everything else, but we don't even look at the fact that it costs $5 a day, and the people who can least afford to smoke are the people who do the most smoking. It's hitting the people who can least afford it most. So I don't know how you solve it.
I appreciate the board's discussion on this.
I don't think we can solve it from the bottom up.
Go ahead, Ralph. You don't have to go in any particular order. Something in your head.
Well, my comment is, I just like to make sure, and not with this topic, but with everything we do. When we're here to make a decision, we pass an ordinance, we pass a policy, it affects people's lives in this community. And so I would like to make sure that whatever solution we come up with, it squarely and narrowly hits the target of whatever the problem is with very little collateral damage. And that's the problem is, we've been using some military analogies here. I'd rather kill it with a sniper's rifle than a grenade. We've thrown a grenade at this, and there's a whole lot of collateral damage, and I would be opposed to that for anything because it results in a loss of freedom. I had a gentleman approach me that he's retired. He did 4 tours of duty in Vietnam. He said, "I'd like to buy a grape cigar and walk on the beach." That's his preference. Okay. Maybe we're paying some VA military benefits for him, but he paid a lot for us as well. And so I just like to make sure that I don't want this message to be lost that there's anyone on this board that doesn't care about the kids, because I'd be glad to get involved and go hold the signs and help educate if that helps, because I do think that's important. But I want to make sure that we're not hurting people that have made a decision that may be contrary, because when we start giving up freedoms, we all lose freedoms. What's important to you may not be important to me, but we need to stand up for those freedoms.
I agree. That's why I changed my mind. The bad thing, certainly well-intended. Mm-hmm. No, nobody opposed it. No, nobody. 2 public hearings, right, Heather? Nobody, not one person stood up and opposed it. And it sounded like a good idea, but I guess I should have vetted it a little further personally, and I'll take responsibility for that. Any more discussion?
I make a motion we adjourn.
All right.
Second motion.
All in favor? They tell me I got to vote every time.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.